What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build a gaming PC step by step. And this is not restricted to just a gaming PC. Any PC you'll be building will be following these instructions. And I know the thought of this, if you don't know what you're doing, could be very intimidating. But honestly, it's probably a lot easier than you think. And I'll be going through all the steps here from start to finish. And I really hope it helps you out. If you see any of the products or hardware you like, I will have everything you see listed in the description down below so you can check it out. But let's start this off. The case we're going to be using for this is the Corsair Crystal Series 570X RGB case. It is ATX, so we're going with an ATX build, and I love the all tempered glass look to it. Now, first things first, unbox your motherboard, because this is where the majority of the build is going to take place. Carefully take it out of the anti-static wrap and place it on top of the box for now. But before you do anything else, because this is something that is easily forgotten, take the I/O shield from the motherboard box. Simply snap this into place on the back of your PC case like I'm showing here. This is where you're going to have access to all your motherboard's ports and connections. And trust me, just do this now so you don't forget it later on after the motherboard is already installed. Next is time to grab your CPU, and the processor itself along with most likely a fan will be inside the box. Now be very careful when handling this because the bottom of the chip is very fragile and the entire build could get ruined if this gets damaged. As you see here on this Ryzen 7 1700 CPU, the pins are very tiny and fragile. Back to your motherboard, pull the lever on the socket backwards to open it up. Now on the CPU, you'll see a little arrow in the corner. This is so you can align it with the indicator on your motherboard for a proper install in the right orientation. Gently place it down, do not add force. If it doesn't just lay into place, pick it up and realign it. Remember, be very careful. Then from here, you close the shield and the lever to secure the chip. Now it might seem like you're adding a little excessive force when you're closing this lever, but don't worry, this is normal. Next is installing your CPU cooler. If you have a stock cooler that came along with your CPU, it's going to have some pre-installed thermal paste on the bottom. Try not to touch or smear this. But in case there isn't any that's pre-installed and it came with it inside the box, or if you bought your own, try to put no more than a pea size on the CPU. From here, the stock cooler just locks into place with those 4 pins. They line up with the holes that are cut out on the motherboard. I do want to mention that depending on whether you're building an AMD or an Intel build, the coolers might be different, so resort to your motherboard's manual or your cooler's manual if you need additional instructions. Attached to your cooler is going to be a 4-pin fan cable. Simply locate the CPU fan connector right near the top of your CPU and plug it in. This is now going to give your fan power. Now real quick, if you bought a different fan cooler or if you have a liquid AIO, resort to that manual because like I said before, AMD and Intel different on installation and they include their own brackets and mounts, so just resort to your manual for that. But like I said for this, we're just going with the stock fan cooler that came with our Ryzen chip. Next is probably the easiest part of building your PC, and that's installing the RAM. Locate the DIMM slots here on your motherboard and line up the notch on the bottom of the RAM to its respective orientation. Whether you're installing 1, 2, or all 4 sticks of RAM, you want to install them in the proper read order like I'm showing you now. But since we're installing 4 sticks of the Corsair Vengeance RGB RAM for 32 gigs total, we're filling all the slots here with some RGB goodness. If you install the RAM correctly with a little force, the brackets on each side will snap into place, securing it. Now we're going to be putting the motherboard inside the case, and make sure you have your case's side panels taken off obviously. Most cases nowadays do have pre-installed motherboard standoffs, so align your board with the standoffs inside. Placement for this will vary depending on if you have an ITX or an ATX motherboard, and if there are no standoffs installed in your case, use the ones that are most likely supplied with your case's packaging and screw them in. Make sure your motherboard is lined up with the I/O shield in the back of the case for a proper fit, and then screw it down to lock it all into place. Now do not over tighten these screws because you don't want a chance cracking your motherboard. Now while we're here, your pre-installed fan exhaust should have a cable lying free. You can just plug this into an available fan port on your motherboard. Ours is labeled system fan towards the top right, although placement of these will vary on every motherboard. Now before we install the graphics card, now's a good time to install the motherboard connections from your case since you'll have more room to work with. Running along the backside of your case, you're going to have bundles of cables and connectors that need to be plugged in. Find your USB and HD audio cables and locate their matching spot on the bottom of the motherboard where the rest of the tiny pins are. Now from here, it's really just a matching game as each pin is labeled, and all you have to do is plug them into the correct spot. Some of these pins are very tiny and it might be hard to read, so if you're having trouble reading these or finding where they go, again just resort to your motherboard's manual because it's going to be a much easier diagram that's laid out for you, and it'll show you where everything goes. You'll then have a big USB 3.0 connector lying free if your case features this, and this too plugs into its matching spot. Once that's all done, you'll now have access to your case's I/O buttons like the power, reset, and all the USB connectors on your PC will have power. And while we're here again, because this is always easier to install before the GPU, it's now a good time to connect your hard drive or your SSD. Some cases have mounting slots for SSDs as well as standard hard drive bays in the back, but since we're just using an SSD, simply mount it here. Your motherboard's also going to come with a SATA cable which will connect your SSD to the motherboard itself, but first plug in the tiny L-shaped connector and then connect it to your motherboard's SATA ports on the front. These are usually towards the right side of the motherboard so you can have easy access to route the cable to it. Now it's time for the graphics card, and it's really simple. Using a screwdriver or your fingers, remove the screws holding in the top two brackets on the back of the case. This is where you're going to have access to HDMI, DVI, and DisplayPort connectors. That's going to be for your monitor. Very similar to how we installed the RAM, match up the notch on the back of your GPU to the PCIe slot in the motherboard with the fans on your GPU facing downward. You'll feel it snap into place and the connectors will be lined up with the rear of the case. Now use those same screws to secure the GPU to where those brackets were to secure it. This is the MSI GTX 1070 Ti, so it's a newer card and it's definitely a solid pickup if you want something similar to the 1080 but at a cheaper price. And don't worry, we're pretty much all but done. Take out your power supply and locate the cables you're going to need. This depends on if you have a modular PSU or not. Our CX750M from Corsair is modular and has 750 watts of power, which is going to be more than enough power for this build. If your power supply is not modular, then all the cables are already attached for you. We're going to need a 8-pin and a 4-pin VGA connector for our graphics card. Our motherboard needs 24-pin power connector on the right side here, and powering the CPU is an 8-pin connector at the top left side of the motherboard. And lastly is going to be powering that SSD, and it's pretty much the same as the SATA cable, just longer. Once you plug in the hardware to the power supply, it's time to secure it in place. This case is bottom mounted, although some budget cases are top mounted for the PSU. You just slide it into place under the shroud here and use the included screws. Some cases even have a bracket, but once it is screwed into place, use the included power adapter to get it up and running. Now that we're pretty much done, so grab your monitor, mouse, and keyboard, turn it on, and if after a few seconds it boots up to the BIOS screen, that means you successfully followed this guide. Good job. Yes! Last thing, and this is optional but definitely recommended, cable management. While all those connectors on the back may be messy, it's in your best interest to bundle up as many of these as possible so it's much more organized. That way it'll make putting on the back panel much easier without potentially damaging anything. If you ever need to change or swap out components, having everything organized will make that much easier to find what you need. Your case probably has loops in the frame to zip tie or use cable ties, so that's helpful. Once that's done, put back on your side panels, screw them back into place, and you're good to go. Alright, so as you can see with this crazy cool RGB build from Corsair we have going on here, using that nice tempered glass crystal case with the RGB RAM and their LL series RGB fans, this PC is not only looking crazy cool, but it's done, it's up and running, and that's how you build a gaming PC. This build guide is brought to you by Corsair and the new Corsair Hydro Pro liquid coolers. These AIOs are meant to be seen, not heard. With flashy RGB dynamic zone lighting that would have been perfect for this video, combined with magnetic levitation fans and precise pump control, you'll have your PC staying cool while keeping whisper silent. For both AMD and Intel CPUs, the new Hydro Pro coolers have modular and tool-free mounting brackets for easy installation. You can also pick these up in two options: 280mm with the H115i Pro and 360mm with the H150i Pro. Check the links down below to learn more. So if you followed this guide step by step and your PC's good to go, congratulations, you can get to gaming now. But remember, like I said, depending on whether you're building an AMD or an Intel build, some of the mounting steps will vary for the CPU as well as the cooler, but just check your manuals for that. If you have any questions, that you just have in general about building a PC, let me know in the comments section down below. And don't forget, if you saw any hardware that you like, check the links in the description down below as well. I'll have everything listed down there for you. So I hope this video helped you out. If it did and you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at randomfrankp. And last, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Well, I'm randomfrankp. Hope you enjoy your new gaming PC. Have a good day.